Hello. Today I will be teaching and demonstrating the bucket sort method used for efficiently sorting a set of elements. What is bucket sort? Bucket sort is a method to sort a set of elements by putting the elements into buckets, sorting them inside of the buckets, and then reconstructing the set with the sorted buckets. How does it work? The first step is create your buckets. I chose 6 buckets because it works well with the data that I was given, and you'll see later all the buckets will have elements, so there's no wasted space, and the numbers are somewhat evenly distributed. The second step is to place the elements into their corresponding buckets. So as you can see, we are going through the set of numbers and placing each number in its corresponding bucket. Now for step 3, use any algorithm that works efficiently to sort the elements inside of the buckets. So in this example, we swap 7 and 15 in the first bucket and 94 and 99 in the last bucket. For the fourth and final step, reconstruct the set with the now sorted buckets, going in order from least to most significant in terms of value, or the 0 indice to the nth indice. In this example, the elements from bucket 0 to 16 will be put in order first, and then the elements from bucket 17 to 33, and so on until we get to the last bucket, 85 to 100. These are the run times for bucket sort. Your worst case scenario is going to be O of n squared. This would be if all the elements ended up in one bucket after you create your algorithm and buckets to place the elements in the bucket. This is why you want a good algorithm for placing your elements in the bucket, so you don't end up defeating the whole purpose of the bucket sort method. Your best case scenario would be O of n. An example of this would be if you created your buckets and after you created an algorithm to put your elements inside of the buckets, each element got its own unique bucket, so there's nothing that needs to be sorted because they're already in order, and you can just gather the elements from there. The average case runtime for bucket sort is usually O n plus k, and k is going to be the number of buckets that you've created to put your elements into. The runtime is largely dependent on the sorting algorithm that you use inside of your buckets to sort the elements in there. So let's say if you choose a very inefficient sorting method for the data that is in your buckets, you are going to have a worse runtime compared to using a more efficient sorting algorithm to sort the elements inside of the buckets. So is bucket sort stable and in place? We'll first talk about in place. Bucket sort is not in place. The whole idea of bucket sort is that you're creating sublists from a larger list, and you're going to take the elements from that original larger list and you're going to put them into sublists, sort them in those sublists, and then return them to the original list. If it were in place, it can't be because you're creating extra space to take the elements from the larger list out and you're going to put them into that extra space, so you are creating extra space. Now, when it comes to whether bucket sort is stable or not, it depends. So, again, similar to runtime, if the sorting algorithm that you use inside of the buckets to sort the elements inside of those buckets is stable, then yes, bucket sort will be stable. If the algorithm that you use is not stable, then no, it is not stable. So just for some other notes on bucket sort is pretty similar to radix sort, which Professor Yarrington did a video on, except in radix sort, you aren't sorting the elements once you place them in the bucket. You're kind of just cycling them through until eventually the reconstructed list is sorted and you don't need to put them in buckets anymore. There are also many different implementations of BucketSort. You can use hashing, merging, select. You can use a whole bunch of sorting algorithms, and they all have different efficiencies and runtimes based on the data set that you're working with. And finally, for an overview of BucketSort, the basic idea is you're going to scatter elements of a set into separate buckets that you've created using an algorithm. You are then going to pick another sorting algorithm to sort the elements inside of the buckets, and finally, once the elements inside of the buckets are sorted, you're going to gather them in order back into the original set, and you should have a sorted set of data.